Stihl's Hexa chain. This stuff's been around for a long time. I recently did a video where I explained that it is essentially a filing system. The part of it I want to deal with today is about cut speed. This stuff still has a reputation as being faster cutting than a regular full chisel. So what you're about to see is a 66 drive link Stihl Hexa chain that was sharpened with a Hexa file. The depth gauges were set with one of the Stihl progressive plate. You guys are going to see it run on a 461. I also ran it on a 310, but we'll touch on that later as well. The first 5 cuts you're going to see is it sharpened with a Hexa file as it should be. The second lot of cuts you're going to see is it sharpened with a round file. I went through with a 5.2 millimeter or a 1364 round file and I filed it like that. My target result was a 25-degree filing angle across the top. I wanted a 60-degree side plate angle because that is what Hexa chain comes with. And I hold the file flat to achieve that 60 degrees through the inside. So this is going to compare this hexagonal file versus a regular round file with the chain sharpened with the same angles, just with a different tool. That's what I wanted to focus on. All right, this is a 461 with a Hexa. I've just filed it around. Okay, so you've seen it cut with a 461. I also ran this on a 310. I'll show you some video in the background. I managed to complete all the cuts. The reason that I'm not going to show you guys the entirety of the cutting with the 310 was that the depth gauges using that tool were too much for this saw and it took forever. So for reference, the average cut speed with it as a Hexa chain on the 310 was 29.78 seconds for the 5 cuts, and it was 30.01 when it was sharpened round. The difference there is about 0.2 of a second, so completely statistically irrelevant. As you guys saw, it was ever so slightly faster when it was round filed than when it was Hexa filed. This is because of 2 irregular cuts, really. If we eliminate the slowest cut, that 19.9 seconds on the Hexa, and that one fast one that was on the round file, the last one, they work out so incredibly close, it is not worth talking about. So, to answer a question, do these chains cut faster when they're sharpened in a Hexa shape versus a round shape if you maintain the same angles? No. It makes no difference. Why are many factory chains coming like this, especially the cheaper ones? Because it's easier to bring the grinding wheel in the factory in on one axis. That's all they have to do to create this style of cutter shape, is bring that grinding wheel in on a single axis and run it part of the way down the side plate. That's why you're seeing a lot of chains like it. There's a lot of talk about the durability. It's not something I can actually test, but from my own experience, I have run through 6 loops of this stuff now. It fails in exactly the same way as a normal full chisel, out on the corner and the very upper lip of the top plate. While on this, that top plate is flat like that, the top plate cutting angle is flat. It's usually not the lower part of that top plate cutting angle that fails. It's the upper part sitting on the very top of the top plate. That's where the damage starts to occur. It fails exactly the same as a round file. It starts going off the exact same way. If you notice any improvement in cut speed from this, it may be due to the slightly narrower curve, but you're only going to notice that in situations where the saw is under serious stress. So if you're running this on long loops, like 32-inch loops and on a 70cc saw, you may see a difference. Every size that I've run it in, I've tried it in 18, 20, and 25. I cannot notice a difference on any of the 70, 80, or 90cc saws that I run. That is because the saw is still pretty much overpowering the chain. So that curve makes no difference. So hopefully that's the end of this for me. It's unlikely I'll be buying any more of this stuff in the future. It's interesting. I like the idea. I think it is helpful for a lot of people. But there's some realities that you need to face. It is a filing system. If you want a more accurate way of controlling file height without the cost of the Hexa files, buy a file guide. It's just not worth it for what I do. I don't find the width to be particularly helpful, given it's got the full width chassis still on the chain. There's no real benefit for me and what I do. When it becomes available in smaller sizes, then by all means, I think in 3.8 Low Pro it will be excellent for the type of user that will be aimed at. A 325 version of it could be useful. We will never see a 404 version of this. If you've ever looked at a 404 chain, you know why. It just cannot happen. So hopefully that's it. That's me done with Hexa now. I will probably leave this one round. I don't really see the point in refiling it because that Hexa file I have is pretty much stuffed. I will just continue round filing it out to the end. If you want to use it, by all means go for it. Just don't expect any real world relevant results. If you want to be able to outcut it, if you can control file height relatively consistently with a round file, tilt your file handle down a bit, I guarantee you will outcut a Hexa chain. That is because you're adding more of top plate cutting angle to the inside of the cutter. So you can do that and you will outcut this. I deliberately hold it flat across there, trying to recreate those angles that the Hexa file creates. So that's it. Hopefully we're done here.